Welcome one and all to the ancient journey. On today's journey, the Yuba County 5. But before we get started, don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, please give us a like and a share, and if you're into our content, please check out the rest of the channel and subscribe. It helps grow the channel and it keeps us producing these videos. Also, if you're interested in this story, it takes place just 10 miles away from another famous unsolved mystery in nearby Keddie, California. I'll put a link in the description to that video about the 1981 Keddie Cabin murders. In the winter of 1978, 5 young men vanished on a trip home from a basketball game in Chico, California. It would not be until the summer that their bodies would be discovered, and the circumstances of their deaths would leave more questions than answers. The 5 men, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, Ted Weir, Jack Madruga, and Gary Mathias, were all close friends and enjoyed playing sports, especially basketball. In fact, the men were part of a traveling team known as the Gateway Gators and were excited about their upcoming scheduled game on February 25th. Along with their love of basketball, the 5 men also shared something else. All 5 of the men had mild intellectual disabilities, considered slow learners, or had psychiatric conditions. Gary Mathias was a U.S. Army veteran and was being treated for drug use and schizophrenia when he returned home from service. By 1978, Mathias was being treated as an outpatient, was able to work at a gardening business, and was considered by his doctors to be one of their success cases. Each of the 5 men still lived home with their parents. They were so close with each other that their parents simply referred to them as the boys. The Gateway Gators were sponsored by a local charity for the mentally handicapped. On February 25th, they were set to start play in a week-long tournament sponsored by the Special Olympics, where the winners would get a free week-long trip to Los Angeles. The men all laid out their uniforms the night before and made sure to ask their parents to wake them up on time the next morning. They then decided to drive to Chico, California to attend a college basketball game. Jack Madruga and Gary Mathias were the only 2 with driver's licenses, and Jack took the wheel of his 1969 Mercury Montego and the group headed out to see the game. The date was February 24th, 1978. As the game wrapped up, the group drove to a local market and bought some snacks. It was just before closing time of the market, and the clerk remembered being annoyed that this group came in just as the store was about to close. None of the men were ever seen alive after that point. At home, some of the parents had stayed up waiting for the boys to return, but when it became clear they were not returning, the parents notified the police. Police in the counties of Butte and Yuba started a search for the car along the route the boys would have taken from their hometown Yuba City to Chico. The police were unable to find any sign of them, but a few days later, word out of the Plumas National Forest comes that a Mercury Montego had been found parked on the side of the road of the Oroville-Quincy Road. The car had been spotted earlier by a park ranger, but wasn't initially considered suspicious, as many people enjoyed pulling off to enjoy many of the cross-country ski trails in the National Forest. Now that police had located the car, they also found evidence in the car that the boys had been in it. There was trash from the snacks they had purchased in Chico, along with programs from the basketball game. There was also a folded road map of California. But strangely, the location of the car, some 70 miles from Chico, is completely out of the way of any direct route to Yuba City. The Oroville-Quincy Road at the time was a dirt road, and police couldn't understand why the boys would have driven up a long, winding dirt road into a snowy forest, miles off course. Madruga's parents said he did not like cold weather, and Sterling's father said he did not enjoy the outdoors, so it's unlikely that the group was just sightseeing. Stranger still, the car itself was in great shape. The car had become stuck in some snowdrifts, but police surmised that 5 men could have easily pushed it free. There were no keys in the car, but police were able to hotwire it, and it fired right up. The car's gas tank read 1/4 full. The underside of the car had no dents or gouges, despite the road being a rutted and rough country dirt road. Either the driver had been exceedingly careful, or someone who knew the road was the driver. The car was also left unlocked, with windows rolled down. Madruga's parents stated he would have never let someone else drive his car, and he would have never left it so unsecured. A snowstorm the next day delayed the search, and 2 days later, searchers in snowcats almost became lost looking for the boys, but no traces of the men were found. But as the search unfolded, odd details began to come in from some local witnesses. Joseph Shans of Sacramento was driving up the Oroville-Quincy Road towards a cabin he owned. He had made the trip to check out the snow levels in advance of a family ski trip. At 5:30 p.m., Shans becomes stuck in a snowbank and while trying to push himself free, realizes he is having a heart attack. He climbs in the back of his car and leaves the engine running so he will have heat and waits for help to arrive. Several hours later, he sees headlights behind him and looks out to see a group of people standing around a car behind him, one of whom appears to be a woman holding a baby. Joseph calls out for help, but as he does so, the group stops talking abruptly and their headlights go out, and slowly the group leaves. Later, he sees a pickup truck parked behind him, and then it slowly pulls away and continues down the road. Shans' car runs out of gas in the early morning hours, and he's able to walk the 8 miles back to a nearby lodge. The lodge manager drives him home, and on the way they pass an abandoned Mercury Montego at the very spot he had been stuck. On February 26th, 2 days after the boy's disappearance, and some 30 miles from where the Montego was abandoned, a store clerk sees 4 men climb out of a pickup truck and enter her convenience store. They buy burritos, chocolate milk, and soda. The store owner corroborates her account. She identifies 2 of the men as Bill Sterling and Jack Hewitt. Unfortunately, the clerk makes this realization on March 3rd when she sees the flyers posted showing the missing men. High in the California mountains, the snow melts in June, and 4 of the men's bodies are discovered in and near a trailer camp that is set up as an emergency shelter for hikers in the area. But just like the rest of this story, the details here leave a ton of questions to be answered. The trailer is some 20 miles from where their car is found, deep in the forest. Only bones are found from 3 bodies in the woods outside of the trailer. Inside the trailer, police find Ted Weir wrapped head to toe in several bed sheets. It appears that he is starved to death. Next to his body in the trailer are his wallet, his ring and gold necklace, and oddly, a gold watch is also found, which Weir's family says is not his. Madruga, Sterling, and Hewitt all have died from hypothermia. Weir is missing his shoes. Matthias's shoes are found in the woods nearby. Matthias's body has never been found. The emergency trailer is set up with a fireplace, ample kindling, matches, sea rations, and just outside, a storage shed containing enough dehydrated food to keep the 5 men alive for more than a year. Another shed outside the trailer contains a butane tank that could run the heating system of the trailer, but it had not been turned on. Despite what may seem like common-sense solutions to avoid starving or freezing to death, these may not have been an easy decision for Weir to understand. He often had difficulties with simple tasks due to his disability. The sheets covering his body indicated that Weir had not been alone in the cabin, as he was tightly wrapped in the bed sheets from head to toe. Police have no theory as to what led to the men's death. There's no rational explanation as to what led them some 20 miles into the woods, leaving behind the safety of an operational vehicle. The men had also passed the same lodge on the way up the road that Joseph Shans had walked to, but had decided to venture into the woods instead of venturing back down towards the lodge. So what explains the Yuba 5? How did they end up on the dirt road over an hour off course? Why did they leave their car instead of pushing it out? Why didn't they turn back to the lodge instead of trying to forge ahead? And whose headlights were behind Joseph Schoen's car that night? And who did the store clerk see in her store just 2 days later? Who wrapped up Weir's body, and whose watch was found in the cabin? How could these men perish with the means of survival right at their fingertips? It's a mystery we may never have an answer to. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing the journey.